Hello, Just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. Starting off with a full face today, and that's because on one eye I have the Danessa Myricks Beauty Freedom Pastel Dream palette. And for anyone who's not seen it yet, that's what that looks like on the inside. And on the other eye, I've got the Kaima Cosmetics Frosted Fairy palette. And that is what that looks like on the inside. The question is, which palette is on which eye? Lock in your answers, guys. We're about to find out. So we're going to get into this. We're going to do some comparisons. I have taken the time to do some swatches here. I've done, I think the formulas probably give it away here for the intensity. Some of the special shades there almost look like they're glowing on one set of these swatches. So before I tell you, if you haven't guessed already, then let me know which side you think is which. Sorry, the swatches are a little bit wonky, but you get the idea. So this is the Danessa Myricks side, and this is the Kaima Cosmetics side. So I'd say that the top two mattes are pretty decent dupes, and then possibly that first shimmer. The other two shimmers not so much. The furthest from being a dupe is probably the bottom shimmer. That's because, what's the name of the Danessa Myricks shade? Gilded Dream didn't really have a dupe at all. I tried it next to Tinkerbell and Willow, but they didn't really work. So that's next to Aurora, but Aurora's kind of too silvery and rainbowy. Aurora is just next level. It really is. So just to clarify, so obviously I'll run through the shades here. Aqua Dream, Pink Mirage, Moon Dust, Galaxy Crush, Pixie Quartz and Gilded Dream. Those are the 6 shades from Danessa Myricks. And then the corresponding shades, if you will, are Eden, Blossom, Calia, Ivy, Pixie, and as I said, Aurora at the bottom there. I'll probably ignore these because they're not exact dupes, but maybe I'll base a look on the others. So obviously Calia is a lot more orange. So yeah, let's focus on the ones that are closest. So I'll work with the purple and the green, and then the other shimmers that aren't. So it's probably going to end up looking very much like one of the looks I did for the initial video that I did with Pastel Dream. We'll keep this as the Danessa eye, and we'll do this as the Kaima eye. I do have a Sephora switch. I do have a Sigma switch somewhere, but I can't think off the top of my head where that is. So we'll utilise that. I don't know if you can see that, but that is all the pigment now gone. And now we'll go into Eden, and let's see how that compares. Okay, ooh, I'm covering up half my face there, all my face. For the greens, I do think I prefer Danessa's one here. And I do think like that's also packing on a bit more evenly. It packed on a bit more evenly on this side than it is on here. As I'm probably going to have to be quite nitpicky in my comparisons here. I definitely say from the two pastel greens, the Danessa one is winning for me. I don't know if you have a view just from what you can see on screen. That was my reference number 1 that I used for both sides, and I cleaned off the pigment. And now I will go into my Zoeva 227 and I'm going to use the purple. So that's going to be Pink Mirage from Danessa and Blossom from Kaima. I think I would say Danessa's is a bit more powdery, but I don't know if that's helping it to have more payoff on application. And I don't know if you can see the excess pigment there. I think with pastels it's mainly about patting rather than blending. I don't know if I will get the brown shade involved. I'll have a think. Possibly, just for a bit of additional comparison. It's been overcast, it's like the sun wants to come out now, which is typical. So if that's messing with my lighting, I apologise. Right, now we're going into Blossom. Slight powdery consistency, but Danessa's definitely more powdery. And I'm covering up my face again. I'd say Blossom is more vibrant. It's a brighter shade than Pink Mirage is. But the other purpley shade, so just to show you quickly, there was Luna, but that wasn't the right tone, and then Pandora's too dark. Like, make up your mind. Go fully behind a cloud or come the fuck out. Seriously. It's like, don't be playing the hokey cokey with the clouds, son. See, I don't know, would that be a better blend? Excuse me while I look very closely in my mirror here. I feel like I do prefer the blend on this side, and I haven't done anything differently. I've blended in exactly the same way, but I feel like it's more seamless on this side than it is on this side. Okay, let me wipe off the pigment from that one, and let me just go again on the Danessa side. It's not, yeah, it's alright, it's alright. I think that's kind of made them a bit more even. Now I don't know if I use like the brown just to kind of see, because it's not going to add depth. Like, well, I think Kalia would, because it is a bit richer. Let's try it anyway. I just want to be able to demonstrate as many shades as possible. Refa 14 here, and going into the Danessa side. Again, quite a powdery shade. Definitely more powdery. And I'm still patting more than anything. Getting that pigment off. Ready for the Kaima side. And into Kalia. It's kind of same but different, isn't it? I'm kind of glad I've got this involved, just to be able to demonstrate the differences and or similarities. I feel like I've taken some of Blossom off a bit there, which didn't happen on the other side, so I'm just putting that back. Yeah, there we go. time for the shimmers. I think it's gonna have to be, I think, Pixie Quartz on the outside. Getting my finger involved. Just try not to cover up my face. It's very subtle. Okay, that's better. I will get like a flat brush and tidy it up, but that's how that side is looking. And then on the other eye, the corresponding shade, I believe, is Pixie. Now this is going to be more vibrant, and this is the flaky texture I prefer. So this reminds me more of the flaky texture in Skulls and Roses, whereas the others that I don't like are almost more wet. So Pixie is flaky, but it swatches more smoothly. So let's see how that applies. Okay, yeah, see, like on the lid, that's a completely, just like a different type of sparkle. So they're similar tones. Or would I say that it's more, this is richer and more sparkly. Like this is more delicate and softer. So it's probably going to boil down to personal preference when it comes to that. But I mean, you can see that from the swatch there. So it's the penultimate swatches on either side. You can see that that's more delicate and more subtle, and that's more vibrant, and it's going to be the same for the two greens there. So that's going to be, I think, what ends up giving away the final look. My little finger there into Galaxy Crush. That's Galaxy Crush there. Again, I'll use a flat brush to tidy things up. Same again, and we're going into Ivy, which I know is going to be super intense. Yeah. That's nice. It's like, I feel like this eye is that eye on steroids. It's gonna boil down to if you want subtle or bling. I'm gonna tidy this up, and then what I'm gonna do for my under eye, I'll probably mirror what's on the top down on the bottom, and then for my inner corner I'm gonna pull out that NYX highlighter, actually, the Buttermint, and I'm going to use that as my inner corner. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to come back and I'll zoom you in, etc, etc. Annoyingly, my little side light has just died on me, but I think you can see each eye pretty well, and this is what they look like side by side. And I'll just close my eyes there so you can see them both. I've gone with a baby wing. I quite like this baby wing. Maybe instead of trying to do big old wings, I'll just stick to doing baby ones. I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, I like a little baby wing. Danessa Myricks, Kaima Cosmetics. Which eye do you prefer more? See, this is very subtle. I think I'd say I prefer the green matte on this side, but I think I prefer the purple matte on that side. And then I like both shimmer sides. So this is if you want to be a bit more subtle and a bit more delicate. And this is kind of the same look, but with some spice, you know, with some extra sparkle, extra intensity. So there's a time and a place for both. Are you soft and subtle, or are you kapow? That's the choice there. What do you think, guys? What do you think? I think this lighting's alright. I've still got, like, I say natural. It's not sunlight because there's no sun to be seen, but there's some light coming from that direction. I've got my other light, and I'm done now anyway. I know the pricing actually, because I've studied this quite a lot and quite intensely. So you've got Danessa Myricks over here. Danessa's Mini Pastel Dream is £52, or it's either £53.50 or like Beauty Bay have it for a round number, I think, of 52. But I think Sephora have it as £52.50. I don't know why they're quibbling over 50p. But anyway, let's call it £52 for ease. That's how much this is. You can get discount codes. I got 15% off at Sephora. Beauty Bay often do discount codes. I know it's out of stock on the Danessa Myricks website at the moment. They're running a 30% offer, and it's implied that this would have been included if it was in stock, but I don't know if they're being cautious here and it will miraculously be back once this 30% off promotion is done. Because yeah, you'd be pissed if you just bought this and then they did the Memorial Day sale and you could get it for 30% off, because it's not been out that long. And it's 6 shades, as you can see, and the thing that they both have in common is that it's 50-50 mattes versus special shades. Galaxy Crush and Pixie Quartz, they're the specials, you know, they've got like the proper shift. Gilded Dream is a more simpler shimmer. I've not used that today. It's still very pretty. It's kind of, but they match though, so you've got like the brownie tone and you've got like the sort of goldy tone. It's a bit more subtle. And then the summary of this one. This is, let's call it it's £49 and it's 16 shades in comparison to Danessa Myricks' 6. Already there, you're getting 10 more shades for £4 less, or maybe the same price if you do manage to get a discount. Having said that, there are 15% discount codes that you can use on this too. So I'm saying 49, but take 15% off because you can use the code Gratitude20. And I'm not out of order sharing that. Kaima Cosmetics themselves are sharing that Gratitude20 code for people to get 15% off. That's obviously a huge thing to consider here. 6 pans for 50 quid. Let's just round. 6 pans for 50 quid or 16 pans for 50 quid. And then there are some people who might still think to themselves, no, I don't want it because that sparkle is too intense. I want something more subtle. So then they might decide that they want to go for this. Which one would I go for? I think there's a time and a place for both, and also they're both magnetic, so you can't even say, well, that's a palette. I don't like the fact it's a palette because I can't sort of pick and choose. Well, you can, because there's a magnetic palette also. Someone who's already got the Lightwork VI might think, well, I want that ecosystem. I want to be able to put them with other Lightwork shades. Is it worth losing out on 10 shades to be able to do that? Because you could just potentially put these in a Z palette, for example, and still carry it around. While that ecosystem, like the packaging, is extremely innovative, is it worth it when you could spend the same amount or a bit less and get this? And I mean, they're effectively the same look. They are. Do I regret buying this? I wouldn't say I regret buying this, and I did wonder how I would feel about this when the penny dropped, how similar some of the shades in these two actually are. I did think to myself, I've made a horrible mistake. I should have just got this and left this. However, for the reason I've just stated, you know, I do have the Lightwork VI. It quite nice to mix and match from there, and maybe down the line I'll show you what you can do when you do mix this, because one thing this 6 pan is missing out on is a bit of depth, and normally that puts me off buying things, but I bought this as an extension to 6. It's meant to be an extension to 6, so in this case I will allow the fact that this doesn't necessarily have any depth. You can still get a complete look. This is a complete look. I don't feel like I need any more than this. This works. But the fact that it is designed to work with the original Freedom palette, that's part of the selling point, really, isn't it? And I would imagine, because this has been so successful and the original has been so successful, we'll see more of these. But they need to work on the price. Like, I don't see me necessarily buying all the extensions that come out, simply because if they're going to be 50 quid a pop, I just don't know that that's value for money. And it would depend on the 6 shades. And I think they would, in future, they'd have to be all shimmers for me. I know some people are pleased that there are some mattes in here, and I get it. But when you think of the cost of this, really, these should all be special shades. There should not be any mattes involved, because that makes this feel extra expensive for what it is. I think this is, I mean, hands down, it's the better value for money. Hands down, obviously. Which one should you buy? I mean, it's entirely up to you. I mean, I don't know if looking at these, if you're thinking to yourself, I like the subtlety of this is what I'm going to get, plus I've got the old palette, and I like the fact that this is extension. And you might be thinking, Kaima who? What? I've never heard of them. Which wouldn't surprise me. So you might be dubious about buying this, and you might just think, do you know what, I'd rather spend the money on Danessa Myricks. I know who she is, I know what she stands for, I know her quality, that's what I'm going to get. I'm just sitting here telling you that I think this quality is decent. Having said that, you know, broken record here, but those flaky shades in here I'm not convinced by. So is that texture enough to put you off? Possibly. I would say these have got, maybe not Gilded Dream, but the other two do have a chunkiness to them, but nowhere near to the same extent as the chunky shades in here. Nowhere near. I don't know, if I had my time again, so if I'd sat on it more, because I was in my buy, spend, you can't take it with you phase when I bought this. I don't know if I had considered it more and thought about it more, and the penny had dropped a bit sooner, how similar it was to this. Maybe I would have skipped on this one and waited to see what other extensions they brought out. Regret's a strong word. I'm still kind of happy enough to have it, but if I had my time again, I think I probably would skip this and I would just get that. I would. And that's a bold statement, because it's Danessa Myricks and she does do incredible products, but they're also quite pricey products. Well, the Lightwork palettes are quite pricey. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if you have any views. Do you have either of these? Do you have both of these? I don't know, maybe if you're US based, you're more inclined to get this, especially with this being a UK brand. I don't know. But what are your thoughts, just from looking at these side by side? Which one do you think you'd be inclined to go for? Yeah, curious to know your thoughts. I would imagine everyone's seen the Danessa one, but whether you've seen the Kaima Cosmetics one, that's an entirely different story, but perhaps that's given you food for thought if you were considering the Danessa Myricks palette. Kaima Cosmetics Frosted Fairy versus Danessa Myricks Beauty Mini Freedom Pastel Dream. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye.